Okay, cool. I'm here.
Yes, I can hear. Yes, perfect. We finally,
All right.
finally, we got
technical
this
nightmare.
on. So much anticipation. People are on pins and needles, like they're waiting to receive money from Celsius. Simon, thanks for coming on the show today. Very excited to have you on. If you could just let's start with tell everybody who you are and kind of your overall goals in terms of what's going on with Celsius.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Simon Dixon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a platform called BnkToTheFuture.com. I spoke at the first Bitcoin conference, wrote the first published book in the world to include Bitcoin in 2011, and have been investing in the industry ever since. Shareholder in over 100 companies from Coinbase, Kraken, Bitfinex, Bitstamp, Circle, Blockchain.com, Ripple Labs, and many others, Robinhood. And one of those is Celsius. Interesting, you were talking about the accredited investor rule because slight deviation, but we went on that mission and we changed the securities laws in the UK. And from that work, President Obama picked it up and created the Jobs Act, which did remove the accredited investor rule if companies go through 1 year of applications. But I think you're trying to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm in this position where I'm one of the major shareholders in Celsius through a syndicate we put together at Bank to the Future. I'm one of the top depositors at Celsius, and been going through just this very strange journey since they suspended withdrawals on June the 12th.
Yeah, it's been bad. That took a lot of people by surprise. Some people were not surprised. And it's kind of a situation where we were watching. We were watching what is going on with, just on Twitter, and people were starting to say some stuff about Celsius maybe being insolvent. I went on Celsius's channel on their AMA, and before we went on, like Alex Mashinsky seemed a little bit different than I had ever seen him before. Seemed a little panicked. He told me specifically, he asked me what I thought was going on with the markets. I said, well, I think we're going to see more downside. He said, oh, you can't say that. Don't say anything about downside. Like we want to say all positive. It's like he was trying to censor what I was going to be able to say. I think I did still say it on the show at some point in general, but there were some things coming out. Did you have any idea about any of this before we got the freeze on deposits and withdrawals?
Well, no, but we were working on doing their Series B funding round. So the infamous 750 million funding round was actually a 600 million funding round, and we were meant to do a part of 8 months trying to get the DD complete. We never got the DD complete because we needed more transparency on financials and regulatory disclosures. And then withdrawals were suspended, and everything made sense.
Yeah, so that's very interesting because somebody just asked me yesterday about KuCoin raising money and whether that was a good sign or a bad sign. And I said, well, if they're raising money, you got to be transparent with their financials. It might be a good thing, but you're actually saying, Celsius was trying to raise money. It might have been trying to just raise money to stay open, it sounds like. So what is like, so you've got some kind of plan, right? Like you have some kind of idea of a way that maybe people could get their money back, or like what is the overall idea that you have going forward with Celsius?
Yeah, so I'm the person that tends to get called when things go wrong. I've done that a few times. So a company I invested in, Kraken, was responsible for sorting out the Mount Gox fiasco that's only just been sorted out and is still going. And in 2016, we did the same when Bitfinex was hacked for 119,000 Bitcoin. We put together a recovery plan. And so we tried to do the same with Celsius when we realized that they were in trouble. So we spoke to I spoke to Alex. I called him up and said, "Look, here's what we did with Bitfinex. We can put together a recovery plan for you. It involves restructuring the company, doing some debt and equity, but you have to fess up. You have to say what the hole is, and you have to communicate effectively and execute a plan before the rumors and everything goes out of control." So we tried to do that, and that didn't work because there was no transparency on the size of the hole. So we went to strategy two, and we published all these strategies as well when we went public. Strategy two was I went around all of the people that I knew could write a check for the amount that would be needed. and got commitments for up to $6 billion in a bailout. And we presented that. We asked for transparency on the financials. We asked for more regulatory clarity. And we weren't getting what we needed in order to implement a bailout. At this stage, I went public realizing that there is probably a big hole, and started telling people about that. And everyone told me that I'm FUD. I got massive attacks from it in every direction. And I was telling them, this is going into bankruptcy. There is a hole. And I was just trying to warn people of what was coming next. And prepared with that, we started to work on a bail-in structure. And so we identified the three things that we think Celsius has problems with. Firstly, the leadership, it has to go. The brand has to go. It's beyond recovery now, and everything came out during Chapter 11.
Yep.
Secondly, they progressed from a peer-to-peer lending platform to an illegal securities business to an illegal fractional reserve bank without disclosing that over time. So there's a bunch of licenses that you need in order to operate and open again. And third is the risk model. You got to simplify the risk model significantly, and return back to what it originally was promised, and take out all those under collateralized loans where essentially retail were over collateralized and hedge funds were under collateralized. And then it was really just a hedge fund where they were deciding where the funds to go and misrepresenting people that this was a low risk savings account when in fact it was hugely risky. So we put together a strategy for how to do that. And where we are at right now is that we believe that Celsius is going to have to shortly announce how much everyone's going to be haircut for an offer, and put together what they've called a crypto long strategy, which makes zero sense to me in terms of the numbers. And so, what we would like to do is take on a lot of the assets of the company, and put it into a business that can continue, and do a bail in, which is essentially make all of the creditors shareholders in a Bitcoin investment bank, which is a vision that we've been working on for a long time. So, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. So much to cover there. I mean, that's a lot. I guess let's start with this. Alex Mashinsky. It sounds like, in my opinion, based on everything you just said, that he's really the problem here. Is that he has not been willing to go along with anything that made sense, because I think he doesn't want to give up the image. He wants to think he can make a comeback. I think he thinks against all hope that somehow he's going to be able to salvage this. First question would be, do you agree with that? What do you think it's going to take for him to move on? And also, is what he did criminal?
I'll leave that to the lawyers and the regulators to decide. But running an unlicensed business is not disclosing a whole is a criminal activity. Using client funds in ways that you weren't authorized to do that, that's a problem as well. Going and telling people to buy sell tokens while you're manipulating markets and selling tokens to those same people, that's a big problem. And there's just a list and list and list of things that are a big, big, big problem. Tell him, the way that this was represented, lack of disclosures, a token that actually was registered as a security and then put on a crypto exchange. There's a big, big, big list of problems that need to be figured out here. The answer to the future is it depends if people lose a lot of money. There's no recovery for Alex and Celsius from here at this stage, because what he would have to do is, firstly, he'd have to get regulators to approve that he can do this business. That's a big problem. Then you have to be fit and proper, and that means in an application you have to tick a bunch of boxes and prove that you haven't done any of these things. That's a big problem. So there is no return. But initially, he thought he could hide the hole and trade his way out of the hole, which essentially would have returned to a bigger and bigger problem, because the problem was just escalating and escalating.
It's a typical
over time.
typical degenerate gambling. This is what you see from somebody that is at the casino at 4:30 a.m. who's lost all their money and they're down to their last $100 and they think they're going to be able to make up the 10,000 they lost. Like, it's like gambler's fallacy is basically what he fell into, it sounds like.
Exactly that. That's my perspective of what happened. And he just kept trying to cover up a bigger hole and get himself deeper until eventually he had to just, and we're at the stage right now where I think he recognizes the seriousness of what's happened. He must be getting all of the same messages that I'm getting of people that have committed suicide, people that have put their entire retirement savings into Celsius, people that have literally lost everything. And this is why it's so different from, like, say, the ICO boom and bust. At least these were people that were trying to get rich quick and it failed.
Yeah.
And they start over. This is people that were duped into putting their entire future into a platform that they were told was safer than a bank,
Yeah.
based upon what he called a $2 billion balance sheet, which was essentially sell token.
Yeah, and that's what's really alarming is, you look at the numbers, the balance sheet. It was in this ridiculous stack of papers they sent me. 600 million, I think, of what they have is Cell token, which is worthless. So, I don't think anything can be done with that. Let's go with. I got a couple more questions. Uh, let's talk about timeline, like maybe a realistic timeline for people who would be willing to receive a haircut or could potentially get money back, because if we look at Mt. Gox, for instance, and we look at how long that has taken, everybody's saying, well, it's about to be over. We don't know that for sure. We don't know when they're dispersing those funds and how they're dispersing it. That may go on for years too. But when that's been, what, 2014 is when it happened. It's been 8 years already. Is this situation going to be different because it's going to be handled in the United States? What is a realistic timeline for people to be able to receive maybe some of their funds back?
Yeah, so in the case of Mount Gox, it's 8 years and it's still going. That's because it was done through, and the Hail Mary for Mount Gox was that we managed to lobby and persuade them not to sell the Bitcoin.
Mm.
Because of that, it came out of bankruptcy. But then every time someone sued them, when you're out of bankruptcy, you have to delay paying the creditors in order to resolve the legal case. And so if that happens, if Celsius reopens again, then you can expect a similar thing. So Celsius has to not reopen in order for this to be settled in a timely fashion, is the current state of affairs. Bitfinex, it was resolved within a couple of weeks and then went on for 9 months to make investors whole.
Okay.
But in the case of Celsius, the current state of affairs is it's using Chapter 11. Now, Chapter 11 is an incredibly innovative bankruptcy proceeding. If this was done, say, in the UK, where the holding company is, all of the assets would have been liquidated. It would have crashed the market further. It would have exposed other insolvent businesses, and it would have hit some of those DeFi liquidation points. So that's what was the most important to be avoided, and it would have resulted in people receiving a much, much bigger haircut on the funds. So where is it now? Well, it's moved into Chapter 11, but the lawyers that are representing Alex and Celsius negotiated a 120 days exclusivity period
Mm.
on recovery plans. And what that is for, from my perspective, is a save Alex, save Celsius, reduce as many liabilities as possible, by introducing a haircut and a settlement, whereby as many people sign up not to sue them by settling those funds, and an offer will be made while they say we've got this amazing mining operation that's going to save everybody, and try and buy some time. What that means is that anyone that's got a recovery plan for us, we have to put it to the investment bank that Celsius is engaged, and then the Celsius board have to sign off on those plans. And they'll be analyzing those plans in terms of legal protections, not necessarily what's best for depositors. So that has to go on for 120 days. If in the meantime there are lots of lawsuits and lots of various other things, then the board could be removed, and then with the decisions would be over to the creditors committee, and a different board. If over to the creditors committee, then the community can crowdsource lots of different recovery plans, submit those recovery plans, and then if they can get out within a time frame, a realistic plan that gets signed off by the court, But the key thing with signing off by the court is proving that there is a compliant model in order to execute this. So that's why we've been submitting that. So right now we have to go via Celsius. They get their 120 days. And then it depends what happens with Alex and the board. The legal counsel are essentially putting together lots of strategies to do what they're engaged to do, which is to do what's best for Celsius, not necessarily what's best for your deposits. And the mountain and plethora of lawsuits that are coming through. I had 13 more delivered through my post yesterday. And if you're signed up to that site, they're just coming in fast and furious at the moment. And you've got regulators as well that are looking to do that. So that's really the current situation. What we will be doing is saying, well, Celsius, you say what your plan is. And then what we would look to do is get support around how we can do something on top of that to make depositors slightly more whole by using a bail-in structure where people get equity in something that may have a future on top of whatever Celsius offers and their numbers.
Yeah, I mean that's once again that's a lot. I guess so. What is? I think it all sounds good. If to do that, what does it take to like? We got to run quick because we've gone a little over time here. Just two quick questions, and then we'll have to wrap it up. Maybe have you back on in the future because it's been super interesting for me personally to know what you've been talking about. But number one, what does it take to force Alex Mashinsky out? And then the second thing would be, what actionable steps can my audience, do in order to support you or support, getting rid of Alex, whatever it might be? Are there actionable steps that Celsius users, my audience, can do or take? So those would be two questions.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. So to get Alex out, essentially, it would have to be proven in court that he's not working in the best interests of depositors, and that having him there is hindering the process. So take with that what you wish, but people are doing all sorts of things in order to try and to prove that that may be happening or may not be happening. But there's a strategy whether he's there or not. At the moment, everything's being scrutinized. Chapter 11 is a good process, but they've also got the best lawyers representing them,
Right.
that are the best in the world at this, spending our money as well. So that's what people. In terms of three actions, I'm giving a lot of updates in real time on my Twitter account at Simon Dixon Twit, TWITT.
I'll pull it up.
I'm uploading videos every single day where I'm answering people's questions on Spaces and AMA on my YouTube channel, Simon Dixon. And we put together a web page, which is BnkToTheFuture.com/Celsius, where you can state what your claim is, and you can put together your ideas of proposals so that we can put you in the right groups where people are working on that. So if you're doing coordinated lawsuits or coordinated recovery plans, those are all being done. We're just focused on solutions right now. The problems are well understood. Go through the videos that I've uploaded every single day and you'll understand all the problems. Now we just got to focus at solutions and move forward.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, I've got your Twitter pulled up here so people can take a look on the screen view and pop that up there, Frank. You guys can see it's at Simon Dixon Twit. Well, we're trying to pull it up. There it is. There's Simon. There he is. So you guys can follow him, get stuff in real time. Simon, I definitely want to thank you for coming on today. It's been extremely fascinating. Full of support of what you're doing. And I think everybody, on behalf of Celsius users, are appreciative that there are people out there fighting. We've been trying to do things to fight. It really comes down to getting unified and everybody moving in the same direction is what it's going to take to make this happen. Thing number one that needs to happen, Alex Mashinsky's got to get out of there. And it's absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen someone so prideful that thinks he can salvage this. There is no salvaging this, Alex. You got to go. So, Simon, thank you so much for coming on. And, we'll, maybe have you on in the future.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for having me. But yeah, do remember, we can crowdsource these solutions, so get involved.
Love it. Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Simon.